To the point, informative, entertaining, and protecting the Second Amendment, welcome back to Elfster's Rifles and Reloading. Well, I had one of my good friends contact me. He's just getting into reloading, and he's buying his reloading equipment, and he asked me the question, which brass prep case center he should purchase. And I instantly beelined him to the Lyman Case Prep Center, and for good reason. You know, I've had this Lyman Case Prep Center for well over 4 years now, and I've use this to prep brass for well over thousands and thousands of pieces, and it's still going strong. It's just as good as the day I purchased it. And the reason why I recommend this, especially for the new reloader and you can barely afford to buy your equipment, this is a lot of bang for your buck. It does a lot of brass prep in one station. And not only does it do brass prep, but you can actually use it to cut out stubborn crimp primer pockets, especially something like this Lake City brass. I'm about to show you that here in a little bit. You know, if you can't afford an insane amount of reloading equipment right now, especially something like a Super 600 for swaging brass, you can do what I did when I first started out, and you can actually use the Lyman Case Prep Center for cutting out crimp primer pockets. Now, just to be clear here, I'm not telling you you should use this to cut out crimp primer pockets. I'm telling you that I have used it to cut crimp primer pockets. So if you want to follow my footsteps, that's up to you. Just being forewarned, you got to be careful when cutting out crimp primer pockets. You don't overdo it, but it is possible, and I have done it. So if you want to do it, that's up to you, but I'll at least show you how I do it. Another reason why this Case Prep Center is awesome, especially for the money, for roughly about 125 bucks, it covers a lot of bases for the money in regards to uniforming the primer pocket, chamfering, deburring. It's got brushes, reamers. You can clean out primer pockets, you name it. You know, it comes with a brush and even some good old dry case neck lube here. So I actually have a link in the description box below to one of my Amazon affiliate links. I'll make it easy for you. So if you're interested in buying this product, you can click on that link and I'll take you directly to the Lyman Case Prep Center for purchase. So enough of the BS talk, let's get this going. Now, first things first, like everything in my reloading room, everything's about safety. I can't stress this enough. Make sure you have your safety glasses on. Been there, done that. I've literally got a speck of brass in my eye because I wasn't smart and I wasn't using safety glasses. And trust me, it's the last thing you want. You get a speck of that brass, little speck of brass in your eye, it's going to scratch your eyeball, and it's not fun. All right, so before I show you how to use the Lyman Case Prep Center and what it's all about, let's pop out the primers. This once fired military brass, this Lake City brass in 5.56 or 223 and 7.62 or 308, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But anyways, I know for a fact that this Lake City brass has a really stubborn crimp primer pocket on it. So let's pop this out, and I'm actually going to use this FW Arms auto centering decapper. In my opinion, the best decapper that money can buy, and it's auto centering. You can usually get this for about 55 bucks off the top of my head, and it is amazing. So anyways, let's pop this in, pop these primers out, and I'll show you guys how to remove a crimp primer pocket using the Lyman Case Prep Center if you don't have something like this Dillon Super Swage 600. So right now I got the shell plate 16 in here, got the 5.56 Lake City brass. We're gonna pop this primer out. So if you guys can make this out, let me make sure this is in focus. So you can see here, I popped out the primer and it's got the notorious, really stubborn crimp on the primer pocket. Matter of fact, you can see it right here once I got this zoomed in. And you cannot see a primer until you either cut it out, ream it out, or swage it out. So let me swap out the shell plate, this number 16 shell plate, for the number 1 shell plate here. All right, so same thing. I'm going to use the exact same decapper. This will work on pretty much any cartridge that you're about to reload for, so you don't need a specific decapper for different cartridges. So same deal here with the 7.62 Lake City brass that has a crimped primer pocket. So let's pop this bad boy out. And you can see even on the 7.62 Lake City brass, it's got the good old notorious stubborn crimp primer. So let's just do a quick brief overview of the Lyman Case Prep Center. Now, the first thing I really like about the Lyman Case Prep Center is the fact it's not tilted on its side. You know, the fact that these brass prep bits are facing upwards means when you're doing brass prep, all those little metal shavings are going to fall straight down onto the brass prep center itself, and you can easily brush those off into this little tray here. And that's what's really nice about this. It makes cleanup really easy. And you can brush these filings right into this little tray. You can remove this and dispose of it. You know, some of these brass prep centers are tilted on their side, you know, and these little brass filings are getting all over your bench, and you got to clean that up. And this just makes it really easy. So you got 4 spots here for extra storage if you have extra brass prep bits. Also comes with this brush, obviously, and this dry case neck lube, which I never personally use, but I know some guys do. Also on the sides, there's a few spots where you can actually screw in your brass prep bits for storage purposes, 3 here and 3 on the other side. Now, before I show you how to use all of these parts of the Lyman Case Prep Center, I'm going to quickly show you how to cut out a crimp primer pocket. Now, this can be dangerous. You don't want to overdo it. I am not advising you to do this, and this is what I do. So if you want to follow my footsteps, that's up to you. Okay, so I got that out of the way. The way I cut out this harsh crimp of the primer pocket is I will use the chamfer, inside chamfer tool here, and I'll do a really light cut. It doesn't take much, and you don't want to overdo this. Let me see if I can zoom in here so you can see I just put a small bevel on the inside of the primer pocket mouth opening, and usually what I'll do is I'll follow up with that with the reamer, which will kind of put an oval bevel until it kind of smoothens out. And you can see it puts a nice bevel oval cut to the mouth of that primer pocket, so it should be really easy to seat that primer. Now right after that, I'll usually follow up with the uniformer. Now with this kit comes a small rifle and large rifle primer pocket uniformer. In this example, we got the small uniformer, so I'm going to clean this off. You always want to clean it off before you use it, and just run that on there until I don't feel any more resistance. If you feel resistance, that means it's cutting out brass. Until you feel no more resistance, it's not cutting out brass, then your primer pocket is now uniform. Now it's going to be really difficult to use this if you have a crimp primer pocket. So you want to make sure you remove that crimp before you use the uniformer. Now usually before you do brass prep, you're going to trim the brass, and it's going to put a definite harsh cut on the case mouth opening. And you got to make sure you deburr the outside of the case mouth opening and put a small bevel on the inside of the case mouth opening. Now to deburr the outside of the case mouth opening, you run on the deburr bit. And you don't want to overdo this, but you definitely want to put a small bevel on the outside of the case mouth opening. And what that does is it makes sure when that piece of brass is inserted into your rifle's chamber that it doesn't scratch or damage your rifle's chamber. Now the next part here is chamfering the inside of the case mouth opening. So all you're going to do is run this on here and put a small bevel on the inside of the case mouth opening. Now you definitely don't want to overdo this. That is possible, and if you do overdo it, you're probably going to get a split neck. You're going to weaken the case mouth opening and the neck of the casing itself. So don't overdo this. It doesn't take long to damage your brass by overdoing it. And why is this important? You want to make sure when you seat that bullet that it doesn't scratch or scrape off part of the copper jacket of the bullet itself. All you're going to do is ruin the accuracy of your round. And then finally finish up by running the casing on a brush, just to remove all those little specks of brass from the inside of the casing itself. All right, so let's do the same thing, but with a large rifle primer with a 7.62. So I'm just going to quick swap out these reamers. All right, let's do the same for the 7.62. Now you can see that this primer pocket is ultra dirty. It's not clean at all. So I'm going to kind of show you how the uniformer can kind of not only uniform, but clean up that primer pocket. So first and foremost, before we uniform, we got to cut out that crimp. So you can see the harsh crimp here. So let's turn this on. We're going to lightly cut out the crimp. Like I said, don't overdo it. It doesn't take long. You don't have to ram it down, just light pressure. And you can see we put a nice little bevel on the inside of that primer pocket mouth opening. Now we're going to smoothen that out with a reamer. And there you go. You can see we removed the crimp. There's a nice little bevel, so it should be easy now to seat that primer. All right, so let's get the large uniformer in there. And you can actually turn this on, it'll screw itself down. All right, so let's uniform this now that that crimp has been removed. You might actually see, I can feel the resistance of the brass getting cut out as it uniforms that primer pocket. You can see all that brass there. So a lot of the brass, a lot of that carbon was just cleaned out. So if it's a dirty primer pocket, you might want to do it twice. You can see a tremendous amount of brass, a lot of carbon was just removed. So now that primer should seat just below flush, now you can see we got a clean primer pocket and it's uniform. So that's why I rarely use these primer cleaners. All right, so next we got a really harsh cut opening, case mouth opening to the 7.62. So we're going to run this on the deburr. So that will put a nice bevel on the outside of the case mouth opening, remove those burrs. Next, we're going to chamfer the inside of the case mouth opening. So you don't want to overdo this, just a slight chamfer. You can see that chamfer on the case mouth opening. And then we're going to finish up on the brush. Just to remove those brass filings from the inside of the case body. So just to be ultra clear on this, there are numerous other ways of removing crimp primer pockets and swaging that brass, such as this Dillon Super Swage 600. You know, you can usually get this for a little over $100. And numerous other ways of swaging brass, but if you want a do-all prep center, such as the Lyman Case Prep Center, that can also cut out that crimp primer pocket, it is possible. Well, check out the description box below. I'll have a link to the Lyman Case Prep Center to make it easy for you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Hit that notification bell. And I'll see you guys in the next video.